Hello! It's Halloween and I'm sitting in my office trying to hide from geysers. There's lots of little ghosts and skeletons and witches running around outside and I'm just trying to hide from them. So I thought I would make a video while I'm in here. So I thought I would talk about cannabis because tomorrow is the day that the UK legislation is due to change so that doctors will be able to prescribe medical cannabis. And I just thought I would clarify a few of the issues that have come up in the media in recent months. To be clear, I am making absolutely no comment on the recreational use of cannabis. I am not qualified to talk about that. I'm only interested in the discussion around medical use. So this is very different from what's happened in Canada recently, where they've legislated for recreational use and seems to be going well. I saw that in the news the other day. It looks like they're going to run out of recreational cannabis in Canada before the end of the year, which I thought was quite amusing. But anyway, this is about medical cannabis and about what's going to happen from tomorrow onwards. Hopefully a balanced opinion on it and a bit more information for those who are maybe a bit confused about what's going on in the media around this, because it's quite a hot topic and a lot of people are very strongly opinionated about the subject. It is a really exciting area of research, I think, and I've been following a lot of what's been in the media about it. So what's going to happen tomorrow is that doctors will be able to prescribe medical cannabis. This won't be available for everyone on the NHS. It's going to be a very specific set of patients. And doctors will, as I understand it, be prescribing off license, which means it's not a licensed medication, so it hasn't been approved by the MHRA in the UK to be marketed as a drug for specific medical uses. It will be prescribed off license, which means that those doctors need to do that with confidence that the patients they're prescribing to will receive some benefit. They need to fully understand the medication and be confident that it's safe and effective based on evidence that they've seen. So because we're still trying to produce the evidence, there may be some doctors that are uncomfortable with prescribing, because when a doctor prescribes off license, they are fully liable for the consequences themselves individually. So that's the status. I wanted to explain a bit about the difference between CBD and THC. So CBD is cannabidiol, which is already a legal substance in the UK. You can go and buy that in the shops. We've got shops here in Edinburgh that sell it. There's lots of shops around the UK. CBD oil you will have heard quite a lot about. There are no psychoactive components in CBD, so it's not hallucinogenic and it's not and it's been proven to be safe. The World Health Organization produced some statements last year that CBD is considered to be safe. So it has been legalised in the UK for some time now. The part that is not legal is the THC, tetrahydrocannabinol. And that's the psychoactive component. And that seems to be what a lot of the debate centres around. So the discussion earlier in the year, you'll have heard there was some little boys, Billy Caldwell and Alfie Dingwall, I think were their names, that had very serious forms of epilepsy. So very, very severe. In other words, these poor little boys were having seizures almost on a daily basis, perhaps more regularly than that. So they really had very poor quality of life. And my understanding is that they had tried CBD only, but that they weren't getting the benefit in terms of reduced seizures, and that they had found some benefit from taking products that contained some THC. So that's what they were arguing for, to have access to the products that contain the THC and other cannabinoids, other extracts from the cannabis plant. There's lots and lots of research going on at the moment in CBD. I've been lucky to have seen the results of the epilepsy trials and these very, very rare forms of epilepsy. So I worked on trials in Dravet syndrome and Lennox-Gastaut, and the data did show, this has been published, that the CBD was quite effective at reduction of seizures, and it seems to be that it's particularly useful in any disease that has some kind of tremors or seizures. So we know it works in MS as well, and there are drugs that are marketed and licensed for MS, and there are loads and loads of studies in other indications, other types of illnesses. You'll have heard people claiming that it cures cancer. Well, we've not found a cure for cancer, but perhaps it will contribute to treatments in some way. We don't know, where the research is ongoing. That's for CBD, but for THC there's not as much evidence, and that's what the argument has been about in the media, the THC. All we have really for THC is anecdotal evidence, so word of mouth, and it's very difficult for a doctor to prescribe a medication based on that kind of evidence. So we do need to do a lot more research into that. CBD looks very promising. I would urge caution when it comes to THC personally. We also have to remember that drugs have side effects. Medicines have side effects. All medicines have side effects, including paracetamol. So it's wrong to just completely outrule any side effects even with CBD. And that's why we need to test it. We know that it has links to paranoia. It has been associated with schizophrenia. I'm talking about cannabis in general. It has been associated with schizophrenia. The interesting thing about schizophrenia actually is there was a study recently that suggested it might be people that have schizophrenia or predisposed to having schizophrenia are more prone to taking cannabis. So actually we don't know now whether it's a cause effect or is a result of having schizophrenia in the first place. So it's quite interesting, and I suppose that there will be more research done on that. And in fact, there's been some studies that have suggested that CBD could help people with schizophrenia, which I think is incredible, given that we've always thought it caused it. But from what I've learned recently, I think it seems that if you start taking cannabis in your adolescence, in your teens, you are at a higher risk of developing mental health problems and schizophrenia. But if you start taking it later into your adolescence, into your adulthood, it seems it could be the opposite. So I think that's fascinating. We need a lot more information on that. But it's quite interesting how it can kind of flip. So I'm quite keen to find out more about that as and when information comes out. Again, we don't know. This is speculation. I think it's important to understand the reasons why we test drugs though. So I've mentioned already that doctors will be personally liable for prescribing off license. The reason that we have these licensing regulations and the reason that we test drugs as strictly as we do is because of all the terrible things that have happened in the past. We're very lucky in our generation, I keep being told I'm a millennial. So as a millennial, we're very lucky that we don't remember some of the horrendous things that happened in the past, such as thalidomide. I think that was in the 60s that the thalidomide disaster happened. And that was thought to be a very safe drug. As far as I'm aware, they used that as a sleeping tablet, and they found that people couldn't overdose on it, so they thought it was really, really safe, and that's why they gave it to pregnant ladies. And obviously, after that, they discovered that the one side effect that it did have was congenital abnormalities. So that was one of the major events that helped to shape the regulations that we have. And we're lucky in our generation that we're too young to remember these things, which is a sign of how effective the regulations have been in preventing these major, major disasters. But because we don't remember it, we also have lost sight of why they're important and why we have them. And that is really quite a dangerous position to be in, I would say. So my point really is that I believe we should treat medical cannabis the same way as we do any other medication, the same way we do paracetamol. We know that it's going to have side effects. We know that it's also going to have benefits. We need to make sure that the benefits will outweigh the risks, as we do with any other medication. And let's just see what happens next. It's exciting.